All right, in the interest of time, I'll start straight away with one of my favorite subjects, uh, digital branding from reputation to revenue. And one might wonder why reputation, why revenue are interconnected right now. I'll talk about that in a few slides to come. Last year, I spoke about a term, some of you may remember, called discoverable. How many? Some, I would say some, but okay, a few hands, yes. This was about people finding you. Today, that's going to be a bit of change in there. Last year, it was about be seen and found, visibility, letting people know that you exist, at least on the digital world, and of course, publishing some content which is in the area of your expertise. Today, my tone is going to be a little different because I've learned a lot in the last 1 year. Rather than saying be seen and found, I want to be talking about be trusted and chosen. There's a difference. Just being visible for the sake of existing virtually is different than having the authority when people call you, connect with you on a certain area. There's a difference. There's a strategic difference. Even I'm learning in the last 1 year. So, Rishabh, what has changed in this last 1 year which allowed you to change this shift in mindset? We all have grown in this mindset of good work will speak for itself. Word of mouth will get me more clients. Today, partly true. Why so? Because today, it's not just your offline network that talks about you, but also the online network, which you may not see physically, that are talking about you. It could be your blog post, it could be your article, it could be your technical paper, it could be one of those AI videos that is there uploaded on the YouTube. So, there's going to be a change. This, I'm speaking as a marketer, not as a finance professional. Earlier, it used to be a funnel. When people start to know you, they get a chance to speak to you, they connect with you. After a few meetings and calls, they start with a small project, and with time, they grow into bigger accounts. It was a very linear journey. It used to take time. Today, it's a very non-linear journey when you have to build your business or your professional practice. People will hear about you from different channels. Some of them you may not be able to even track. So this is one of the reasons I am moving from a simple word of discoverability to digital branding, to be able to overcome this difficult non-linear journey and make sure that we are present there. I'll bring a little bit of marketing context also. There is an old study from Google. It's called 7-11-4 rule. Let me simplify this for you. There was a very old survey. It was done primarily to understand consumer behavior on the internet. What it told was that before somebody makes a purchase, they engage with you approximately 7 hours online. Different channels, video, articles, blog posts. It could be multiple different channels and content distribution. Touch points mean they would have probably received one newsletter once every month. They would have probably read about your article in some LinkedIn forum. They may have heard your quotation on some podcast. So these are different touch points. Now, location does not just mean physical location. It could also be different distribution network. It could be different social media networks. So this is an old study. Numbers may change a little, but the concept remains the same. Different touch points, different location, multiple times. I'll repeat that. Different touch points, different distribution channels, multiple times will get your association in front of the world. Now, what else has changed? Everybody has access to AI. Everybody can make content. Everybody has a login access ID on LinkedIn or any other social media of similar equivalent size. So is it good or bad? Think about it. Is it good or bad? Both. Why both? Because bad, because it's been commoditized. Anybody can pick up ChatGPT, push in some prompt, get some outcome, and start posting. So this wasn't so prevalent last year or even last to last year. So good if you're able to know the framework with which to apply this strategy. Simply posting is not a strategy anymore. 2 years back, I would have agreed. Today, no. Just because you're posting something daily on GST does not mean it's going to get you the eyeballs that you require in that non-linear customer journey. So question is, what next? This is the reason I'm talking about this subject today. That's the context. Let me move forward. Using frameworks, AI, and systems to turn your expertise into getting more inquiries. I am a big fan of a book called The Principles by Ray Dalio. And he recently retired, one of the largest hedge fund managers. And he talks a lot about scaling the business using systems. So I'm going to combine multiple different functions into one of my presentation in here. Let's proceed. If you have to move with strategy, as I mentioned, simply posting is not a strategy today. First thing, from a marketer's point of view, you'll have to understand a very important concept called ideal customer profile. Question means, who are you speaking to when you're writing something online or producing some content or publishing some content with the entire purpose of becoming more visible in the area of expertise? Who are you speaking to? Is your audience somebody who's like a very senior level, VP level? Or is your audience to whom you just want to connect for networking purpose? So it's very important to ensure who is your ideal customer profile. Now, customer does not mean that you will have to sell him something. No, in a very broad sense, it means who are you targeting? Who do you want to engage with your content? Where do they hang out online? Now, some would be doing a lot of video posting on Instagram, maybe because their audience is hanging there. Let's say I'm a real estate consultant, or I'm into baking and confectionery. I would be using Instagram because that's where my potential audience is hanging out. But if I'm a professional, the platform that I would like to hang out would be LinkedIn because that's where most of the connectors, decision makers are present. So you have to answer some of these deep questions. Who are you speaking to? Where do they hang out online? What problems keep them awake at night? Now, this could be different for different people. If somebody's scaling really fast, he's opening one manufacturing unit in East India, another two in West India, another one in South India, he would be not being able to see because he would say, what are the compliances involved? Are there any local labor laws? Are there anything that I'm missing because I'd never got this problem beforehand? I've never scaled this fast. So what problems keep them awake at night? Most importantly, what outcomes they are happy to pay for. So I'll give a little bit of example of my own practice to be able to help you correlate. Because of course, if you do all the stuff and you're not getting even an indirect link to your revenue, what's the point? Now, yes, I do agree, marketing or branding is an area where you'll not be able to attribute that, hey, because I did this, I'm getting this revenue. Unlike, very direct ad-based sales where you know that how many people clicked and how many people purchased. There's an attribution. In marketing and branding, there is very little attribution, but you will get a sense and a feel over a period of 6 to 12 months. Next, if we have to publish content for our ICP, we would like to know how do they consume content. What is their preference of content? Now, these are very important questions. Of course, if I had more time, I would have gone deeper, and I will still do towards the end. And this will get a little bit into technicalities of writing. Now, why am I picking writing? Primarily for the simple reason, creating video content is difficult in the sense that it'll take time. It'll take more of your hours. And if you're using writing as a medium, it takes lesser hours. It takes lesser effort, and you can probably just use LLM to get your expertise into that and get the outcome. So I'll ask you to introspect these questions later when you're sitting alone with fresher mind. I will give you the QR code to be able to download this deck so that you can take your time and ask these questions to yourself. I'll help you with some frameworks to be able to ask better questions, more refined answers. This is just one example, ICP. Let's say for some of us who are in CS practice, my ICP would be somebody who would like to be compliant. But simply saying somebody who like to be compliant is not enough. You have to be a little more specific. I'm talking about, hey, I'm in Bangalore. I am talking about those businesses which are tech founders who do not have any idea about compliances and finance. Probably they are growing fast and they have reached to a point where, a lot of legalities are also involved. So what is their persona? Similarly, let me talk about this one, next one. This is also a sample ICP. I'm not going to a little more detail because a little more detail would mean getting into user personas and a little bit more on the marketing side, but broadly you would have got the idea that you will need to define your ICP. Now, our first reaction when we get access to technology is, let's put a prompt, let's get something out, let's put on LinkedIn. That's a very myopic view of how you strategize your branding. But if you want to strategize and play the long game, which is sustainable, you have to answer some of these questions, ICP. Next, let me go a little deeper. How do you get on your ICP's radar online? Now, it's not a single individual that you can map. Okay, I have to target this particular CEO of this particular company. That's a different marketing side of thing, ABM marketing or account-based marketing. Right now, I'll not go into that. But broadly, through your content or through your expertise put online, how do you get on your ICP's radar? There are different roles that people play. Some of the time, same person will play multiple roles. For example, initiator. A person in your company will say, you know what, Rishabh bhai will need Zoho right now. Tally somehow will not work so easily in remote accounting for whatever reason. So that person in my team is initiating a conversation which may ultimately lead me to buy some software which is more appropriate for remote working. Similarly, there will be in other organizations people who are influencers, who may not have titles, but if they say 2 lines, it will be taken with adequate weight. Gatekeepers. Sometimes, because of their positions in the firm, I have to get past the person to be able to approach another person who may be the final decision maker. Now, in a lot of organizations, same person can play all 3 roles. There are 2-3 more roles. I'll allow you to take some seconds to just review them. Towards the end of the deck, there will be a QR code which will allow you to download it today, right now. And these are very pertinent questions because if you go with the right strategy, your tactics will have 10x more rewards. Rather than just posting for 10, 15, 20 days and then saying, hey, nothing is happening, and then going back to your age-old practice. So I am here to show you that I have been on the side of the CA. I have moved into L&D, and I've also now moved into a different ICP. So my ICPs have changed. It's not that my ICP has remained constant for the last 20 years, no. So let me proceed. One of the myths that I want to bust right now is, followers does not mean buyers in the long run. So you may be adopting a system, maybe influenced by all the Instagrammers and the influencers that you see, but at the end of the day, those followers are none of the personas that you're talking about. So yes, you will see the increase in number, but in a long scheme of things, you will not see the impact on the revenue or the leads. So be very careful. I'm not saying in some cases they can't be equal, but not necessarily. Now, I spoke about ICP. That's the number 1 important aspect you must look into when you are strategizing your personal branding or your company's branding. Next is message positioning. I'll give you a little bit of background about my journey since 2004 because that will allow you to see the entire game theory from the lens of this journey. Early 5 years, learning a lot, doing my articleship, working with an iBank, a typical finance initial 5-7 years of journey that everybody does. Next, 10 to 11 years, I was into L&D training. My target audience was Indian corporate. So, my team would go there, do the training, come back, that's it. I was never into consulting at that point in time. And next, the third avatar. So before I go to third avatar, let me just also tell you a little bit of background on how did I position myself then. I had a lot of channels where my ICP used to hang out. These are some of the YouTube channels I own, and I'm not no more active since last 2 years, but during the time that I was in the second phase of my avatar, they used to help me get familiarity before even I get into a meeting with a client. That's one of the most powerful branding that you can have. If you are meeting a prospect and the person knows you from beforehand virtually or have heard a lot about you, 20 to 25% inhibitions is already gone. I have personally seen this myself, especially because now my next target audience is not sitting in India. They are geographically not accessible right now to me. The third avatar that I'm into, my team leads a content creation team specifically for B2B SaaS companies in the US. So not the cringy cat dog videos and baby videos, no. They are more around technical software applications and their use cases. Now, if I show my face and create videos on that, it may not resonate correctly with that audience who may expect a different culture, different speaking tonality. So in that case, what I did, I shifted my ICPs and also my medium of communication. Less of video, more of written content, visual content, which does not involve my face. So what I used to speak about a few years back, Excel, Power BI, financial modeling, I don't speak so much of that today. I speak more on frameworks, systems, how to scale up. I write more about writing, B2B marketing, no cringe content marketing. Because if you're selling, let's say in India, as an e-commerce seller, you would do anything and everything to get those views in Instagram. Maybe even lying on the railway line. But that's what I refer as cringe marketing, which doesn't sit well with my audience on the B2B content marketing front. That's why I'm using the word cringe marketing, no cringe marketing. AI tools and thought-provoking questions. So these are the areas I've identified myself for creating content to be able to appeal to my audience, which is different than what it used to be 5 years back. Now, all this strategy comes from the fact that I'm able to identify my ICP. I'm able to identify how they read. What is their preference? You know, we may talk about, okay, this law's implication is this. This is a heavy word for people of my audience sitting in US. So I have to change the tonality. I have to change the time in which the content is getting published. I want to change the context or the visuals. I will not talk about cricket. I may talk about Lakers, basketball. So those initial questions help me streamline what to do, what not to do. What not to do is equally important than saying what to do. So there was a question in the morning as well, what not to automate. Right. Now, as you grow in this journey, the first step you went through was ICP. The second was on message positioning. So if you're randomly posting anything and everything, your messaging is diluted. Third part I want to talk about is your process barriers. I've briefly spoken about that. And the reason I'm taking this up is because I'm from the same community. CA, I know what is not natural to us. Creating a video is not natural to us. It is not. So let's not even go there. Let's use our strengths rather than focusing on our weaknesses. Let's say, instead of saying, let's make video, screen recording video, let's start with only writing. Only writing. Start with what you find easier to start with, to get going. So one of the other things that I love writing is because the effort to reward ratio is much higher. A writing can be repurposed into several other content formats. A writing does not need a video editor. A writing does not need a team of different content specialists. A writing just needs you and an LLM. That's it. So with this, I'll talk about some of the process barriers. How do you overcome? But before I go to part 2 of 2, I want to first target something called your mindset barriers. If you had asked me the most important part of my discussion with you, interaction with you, this is the part. And I'll tell you with frameworks that I've found myself from different books, different authors, myself implemented, have actually made my teammates implement, and then I'm coming to you with all these insights. Some of you may have bought this book. How many? Okay, 3. Beautiful book. Very easy to read, nothing highly technical. I will not recommend to you 10, 12 books, but the ones that I have on my screen, they have changed my perspective, given me a new kind of success which I never had 10, 12 years back. So what is this book all about? Let's look at this small picture from this book. Take 10, 15 seconds, just look at these 2 pictures first. Are we able to interpret this? Although the language is very simple. But when I say interpret, does it get into my blood? No, it doesn't. For it to get into your blood, you will have to do a little bit of practice towards that area. What do I mean by earn with my mind versus not your time? Of course, everybody works hard. Even the most richest person of any country would be working 12 hours a day. Right? So that's not the meaning that I'm going to work 2 hours a day. No. The meaning is, with the same effort, can I create a multiplier outcomes? That's what this meaning is all about. So my thinking around this was, hey, I'm going to attract high-paying US dollar paying clients. It'll give me disproportionate return on the efforts that I'm going to put in. I'm going to create repeatable, scalable, and predictable processes. Those three words are very heavy words. I was inspired from Ray Dalio's book on principles on these words. Repeatable means, if you've created a system for the same work next time, it's going to be automated or it's going to take a fraction of the time that it originally took. But you are getting the same fees. Success here becomes repeatable. Scalable means what you are able to do for 10 clients, you should be able to do for 30 clients. And predictable means, if you're putting certain input, the outcome is very well known. If you're putting this many hours or effort or team strength, the outcome is very well known. It's not like, aaj market super hai ya niche. Predictable. That's how success comes. So the first mindset barrier is start thinking about this framework. It will not happen overnight. It will happen over years. If you're lucky, maybe months. But I'll connect the dots. I have 3 different frameworks which I'm going to put, and I'll then tie it all together. How does this connect with the branding that I'm referring to? Another very popular book, I think this time the hands will go up even more than the previous one. Yes, I was expecting that. It's a very popular book. I'm connecting 2 dots here, okay? This author talks about, if you have to change something in you, and I'm not talking about from a spiritual or religious point of view, simple habits-based book. You have to first decide your identity, andar se. Then there will be a process, the work, the practice, the system, the discipline, and the final thing will be outcomes. Now, we as individuals, we go reverse. You have to lose 5 kgs of weight. Is that an identity, or is that a process, or is that an outcome? That is the outcome. Now, the problem with that is you join a gym, 1 month down the line, it will fizzle out. Because you started with an outcome. I'm not saying it's not important, but let's reverse the play. If you have a daughter or a son, young, and you're thinking, hey, I should, when he or she gets to a certain age, I should be able to, play, I should be able to travel together as a family, I should be healthy enough to go and trek 20 kilometers. I want to be a healthy dad. That is the identity. That is the identity. Andar se. The whys should be so clear that the yes-no decisions that you have to make on difficult scenarios are very clear to you. So, when I said my identity, this is the reason I said, no, in time, I want to earn more with my mind rather than my time. I do not want to trade hours for dollars. I want to create processes which is still working even if I'm not working in the office right now. So first is I had to change my identity. This is what I want to do. I'm not going to stand for 8 hours, deliver a training session and then earn for a certain amount of money. No. I'm going to create playbooks which even my juniors can adopt while I'm in a different place. So first I had to change my identity. Then came the process. Now process could be many things, learning from peers, learning from YouTube, practicing, spending those Saturday, Sundays in a executive MBA. There could be hundreds of sources. That's the process. Then comes the outcomes. So reverse. Rather than saying, one of the good things I did 3 years back, I stopped taking or consuming alcohol forever. Yes, it's a very personal success journey for me. And the reason for that achievement, personal achievements, was not spiritual or religious. Was a framework that I said, hey, I want to make better decisions. whether it be stock market, whether in hiring the right person, whether in onboarding the right client, whether in targeting the correct markets. So somehow I had a gut feeling that it will help me take better decisions, at least for me. That was the identity that ultimately led to the outcomes, right? I'll not go further into this area. It's a weekend matter, I know. But I was just trying to connect the dots with my personal life, and we can also translate some of that to your professional life as well. So the idea is to move from identity to outcomes and not the other way around. The next, again, another one from the same book. Beautiful. Let's interpret this. If you're getting a first time a project, it could be ERP implementation, SAP implementation, could be automation, could be a certain transaction, merger acquisition, could be a compliance, could be a reverse flipping of an entity from Singapore to India. When you're taking that project for the first time, you do not know all the variables. You're not the expert, but you took it. That period is a lot of pain and discomfort, a lot of tension, stress. Kaise hoga, right? But if you have done this once and you have reached that stage, the one marked in yellow, what happens next? You have the playbook ready, you have the process ready, you know who to get this project executed by or from. So this framework talks about the journey, which is pain, discomfort, but once you achieve that, you get paid by repeating the same thing. Of course, then you can get the right talent, ensure that the playbook is given to the person or the team, and then you move on to something even bigger. Now, this is what I experienced. This is a snapshot taken from yesterday. As I mentioned, in my third avatar, the ICP was sitting in the US, and I want to be more discoverable. I am not going to write about celebrities. I'm not going to talk about basketball just to get more attention. No. I want the right association because my ICP is sitting somewhere in Google, they are searching in LLM, they are on LinkedIn, so I need to be present there. And I need to be present with the terms or the problems that they want to hear. It could be related to go-to-market, it could be related to a product marketing video, it could be which LMS to use for their how-to videos, or how do you arrange their team so that they are able to work remotely. So any and every problem around their ecosystem. Now, it took some time, but that's the result I achieved. Now, the beautiful part is, since I did not digress from my ICP's ecosystem, the traffic is rich. It's relevant. Because I did not attract them by posting my dogs, cats, and baby videos on the internet. No. So that's the reason I'm connecting from the first thing, ICP, positioning, and for that you need the correct messaging. Then moving to address your mindset barrier. And now slowly, in the next 7 to 8 minutes, I'll talk about the process barrier part 2 of 2, very soon. So I was talking about the Google's study on multiple touch points. So writing is used in all these touch points, be it website, be it newsletter. Now you have so much of expertise, why don't you start a newsletter? But the point is, Rishabh, who will read? In the first 6 months, hardly there'll be 10 or 15 readers. That's okay. But those 10, 15 readers is as good as 1,000 followers. Because they have known you virtually. So when you have to be referred to, they already know you beforehand. So now I'll talk about the tactical part, given the time that we have, on the process barriers. The first was, let's pick up writing. Let's keep video for later. Now, to be able to execute that in the various formats, to be able to put all your expertise and experience into writing and share with the world, these tactical tips will help you. These are the 3 books I swear by if somebody asks me, Rishabh, I want to grow my practice by writing better, understanding the frameworks of writing, and using writing as a medium to attract audience or my target ideal customer profile from any part of the world. So first, to write better, learn the game, learn the system. And my 3 sources have been these. Of course, there are many, but these 3 are primary sources. Follow people who are doing it already. There are a few people who I follow on LinkedIn who write specifically on, let's say, go-to-market strategies. somebody who will write specifically on AI LLM use cases. So for me, those are the people I like to follow, read more from, see what are the patterns in writing, different formats, different frequency, different styles, and test those patterns, the one that you think is more appropriate for your line of work. This is my simple strategy of last 3 to 4 years, which I've condensed into one slide. Now, tip 1, to go a little more detail so that I give you something which you can take away and start implementing in the upcoming weeks. In terms of writing, let's read this quickly. It took me some time to shift from a CA mindset writing to a marketer mindset writing. My journey had these critical points which I'm sharing with you. Now read this. I'm not talking about technical papers, those require a different format and style, but I'm talking about social media writing, especially where your ICP is hanging out. See the difference? If I go a little more technical, there is something called readability score. Lower the score, the better. That means grade 4 student can also read what you have written. And if it is grade 10, that means grade 10 students' education is required to be able to read your writing. So it is connected with something called readability score. So you can vary the sentence. This is one style or tactic of writing. Mix short, medium, and long sentences. By the way, you can also instruct your LLM to do that. So if you know the framework, you have the tool, you combine them two to get what you want. So you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm writing for LinkedIn, and I want to mix small, medium, and long sentences so that the readability score is grade 9. Your answer is 100% going to be better, because I've trained an entire team on that. Another term which is more towards marketing, but I think every professional should know about this. There's something called voice of customer. Now, voice of customer is not about English or Hindi. It's about the term that they use in normal conversations in their day-to-day operations language. If you understand, you can connect well with an audience, either offline or online. Now, in offline, you know by the body language, what is the words that are sitting well with people. In online, you do not get immediate feedback and reaction. Now, what I do for this particular thing is I have taken all my sales demo calls of my sales development team, put that into LLM, and that has been trained to get the exact words in the voice of customers at which people get triggered, positively or negatively. And that becomes my basis of all my marketing materials. This is a very simplistic example. Of course, there could be a 10-slide thing on just this topic, but this is tip number 2. Tip 3, being very vague and generalistic or exaggerative. Videos will boost your branding. Very vague. So in time, I have learned how to be a little more specific. Now, it does not mean you have to put in numbers in your sentences. No. It just means be specific. That a typical product marketing video should ideally 60 to 90 seconds. That is specific. But your videos will boost your business. That is very general. There's a difference. So as you train your LLMs and all the AI tools, this will catch up. It has memory. Now, last 1 month, whatever ChatGPT has got in, they have got memory. So in time, they will understand what you expect. I've seen so many finance professionals' website where the blog starts with this word. In today's fast-paced world, the minute I see this, I know it has been purely copy-pasted from a typical AI tool. Is there only one phrase like this? No, there are many. It's available on the internet, not just by me. There are many other people. Spend 1 minute on this. It's okay to use them when you're speaking in person. But if you use them more frequently and in high volume in your writing, there's a good chance over a period of time, once this content gets started seen by many, many people globally, they will get a sense that something is off. It sounds very templatized. So it's not an exhaustive list. There are many other words which are not there in the list, but you get the idea. Their AI does use filler word. Those who have used ChatGPT 4.0 latest version the last 2 weeks, ChatGPT 4.0 uses a typical word called cadence. Cadence. I never heard this word before. Not that my vocabulary is weak, but the minute I now see cadence in somebody's writing, I know it is empowered by ChatGPT 4. It's nothing harm in that, but I get a sense. Now this maturity of readers will develop over time. So that is the tip I would say, hey, be aware of these negative keywords. Next, in your writing, I'll just take 3-4 minutes. In your writing, there has to be some action-oriented stuff. Because everybody in the world is ready with their shouldified thing. You should do this, you should do that. You should do this, you should do that. Okay, so today, I pay more attention, somebody has done that in his professional career, in his experience, and then giving me specific advice what exactly to do. So that's broad difference. Now, doesn't mean you have to always be actionable, but if you keep mixing some of these elements in your writing, it becomes very powerful. Sometimes, not all the time, but when I have some topic to write upon, let's say, AI making videos these days, they are very big buzzwords right now. So when there's a context where a visual or an image or a video sits very well, feel free to use this. But yes, if you consistently end up posting, because you have outsourced your LinkedIn media handle to an agency and they are posting, cats, dogs, and all the controversial political statements, they will get you followers, reach. But who's those followers? They are not your ICP. This was a very old example, but just to show you that video does not have to be, super well shot in a very great environment. It could be as simple as this. Very basic background, just flipping a book that you wrote or compiled or got it printed. That's it. This is good enough. One of the most important thing towards the last, I'm almost towards the end of tips list, is every video, writing, or any kind of content that you create, be it social media, has to have a hook, 2 lines. The reason why my email newsletter get more than above industry average open rate is because I focus almost 20% of my writing time of an email newsletter on just the subject line. The purpose of the subject line of an email is to make sure the reader opens it. You may have written the best content in an email newsletter, but what's the point if 50% do not open that or 80% do not open that? So email subject line is like a hook line. Similarly, every content that you post to be able to amplify what your expertise is needs a hook. Just some of the example. Again, I'm not talking about getting 1,000 likes. No, that is not my target. My target is my ICP should be able to engage with those content. My ICP should be able to notice even if they do not engage, like or comment or post. But I can tell you from experience of last 2 years, for every 1 like on LinkedIn who's not your friend, that means a person, second connection, there are at least 6 to 7 people who have noticed you, but have not engaged. But they will tell you in offline some other day. I read your post, I like that. But when you go back, I did, as a marketer I did. I say no likes. So do not be discouraged about likes. Do not run after likes. Focus on ICPs and consistency. So just some of these hooks I used, which got good engagement from my ICPs. Yeah, the second one was more India-oriented. The third one is more in general. And finally, the last tip. Let me give an example before I talk about this tip is this. Is this looking like a paragraph after paragraph generated from ChatGPT? Content is not the focus here. The focus is it easy to skim? Compared to a paragraph where I'm writing 5 sentences, then another paragraph, 7 sentences, another paragraph, 10 sentences, and then 8, 10 bullet points. So today's readers, as I mentioned earlier, you have to understand how they consume content. They like to scan, they like to skim. Even you skim and scan before you decide whether I should devote more time in reading this in detail or not. So make sure that your readability score is between grade 9 and 10. You can prompt your LLM to do that. And it should be skimmable, scannable. So just wrapping up, another 1 minute to wrap up, is what we discussed is posting is not digital branding. It requires a strategy, which I spoke about. Think ICP. If I have to pick one word, think ICP. I know it's a very boring word because that is not something we deal with every day. Second, I spoke about mindset barriers. Unless you think more introspectively on the identity that you wish to establish, your outcomes are not going to be sustainable. It's going to be the same way as if you joined a gym for, paying full year, but you only ended up going for 1 month and that's it. So start from identity, then process, then outcomes. So yeah, this is the deck that you would want to download if you want to download. And thanks everybody for paying strict attention. Thank you.